We know that 42% of Americans are not just overweight, but obese, and unfortunately the trend is getting worse. We also know from recent data that about the same number, about 41% of Americans, are pre-diabetic and don't know it. And there is a link between these two pretty shocking statistics. That's increasing weight and increasing blood sugar, and it has little to do with fat. I'm Jules Walters, a health coach for women over 50, helping you to become the CEO of your health. Yes, you got it, the Chief Executive Officer, the one who's in charge, the one who owns it. I've spent decades in healthcare as an entrepreneur and a CEO, and what I've learned is that many of the answers to a long and healthy life are up to us. Like you, I'm over 50. And I'm a big believer in the power of women to adapt. Let's face it, we've done it before. My message to you is that I absolutely believe that you can become the CEO of your health. You are the expert on you. As a health coach, I've seen many women make the journey from being, frankly, fed up and frustrated to being empowered and encouraged. They've done it by making small tweaks to their habits that together make all the difference. I call them Nano Health Habits, and I've written a book about it, strangely called Nano Health Habits. And it summarizes small steps which, built one on top of the other, can transform our health. And that's what this podcast, The Health Refresh, is all about. If you're a busy woman who wants the best for herself and her family, and is not prepared to accept that what you have now is as good as it gets, then you're in the right place. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to the Health Refresh team. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that's been running, it feels like forever, almost all our lives, certainly for decades, and that's the low-fat movement, and how it ended up with millions of us packing on the pounds. So how did that happen? We've all had that moment, standing in the grocery store with labels on milk or yogurt shouting at us, low fat. That sounds like it's good for us. And for decades, we've been told that if we reduce the fat we eat, we reduce our chances of becoming fat. But is that true? Well, let's start with some definitions, including what is fat in food. We touched on this last week, and as a quick reminder, there are 3 types of macronutrients, so just bear with me, I'll go quickly through this. So we have protein, which we talked about last week in episode 4, which repairs and renews our body, and getting enough protein is critical as we age. The other 2 macronutrients are carbohydrates and fats, which both give us energy. Carbohydrates, or carbs for short, give us energy faster than fats, a bit like putting some kindling on the fire. Carbs burn fast. Fats in food, on the other hand, last longer, and they burn more slowly than carbs. And we need both carbs and fats as fuel to keep our bodies running. So what's the problem with that? Well, we know that 42% of Americans are not just overweight but obese, and the trend's getting worse. That's shocking enough. In addition to that, we also know that about the same number of Americans are pre-diabetic, so higher blood sugar than normal, and they don't know it. And if you do the math, that's over 130 million people with higher than normal blood sugar. And there is a link between these 2 shocking statistics, so increasing weight and increasing blood sugar, and it has little to do with fat. Unfortunately, low fat has become shorthand for high sugar. Food manufacturers, in their quest to keep us eating their products, have replaced fat with sugar, as both fat and sugar make our food taste good. So low-fat foods could have just as many, if not more, calories than their former high-fat foods, thanks to the added sugar. So low fat has become high calorie. I remember when I first came to America 4 years ago, I was warned that bread typically had sugar in it. And that was helpful to know. I would never have thought that you would put sugar in bread. So I read food labels really carefully, and I certainly do that with bread. And if the bread has sugar in it, it goes back on the shelf. And as a handy reminder, you may remember that the low-fat movement has been with us since the 1960s, a kind of one-size-fits-all approach to a healthy diet. And generations of women started counting calories and embracing the diet culture. It was partly based on the idea that 1 gram of fat had 9 calories compared to only 4 calories in a gram of protein or carbs. So on the surface, that made sense. Fats had more calories than protein or carbs. But now, decades on, the official guidance on fats is much more nuanced. Now the advice is not all fats are bad. It's the saturated fats, think butter or fats in fatty meat, that we need to minimize and keep to less than 10% of our overall nutrition. And it's easy to spot a saturated fat. It's solid at room temperature, so think butter. Other fats, like unsaturated fats, are actually good for us. We need them for energy. And unsaturated fats you can spot easily are liquid at room temperature, so think olive oil or avocado oil. So what to do with all this information? Well, firstly, reading food labels is a great start to make sure that low fat hasn't been joined by high sugar. A handy visual to keep in mind is that 1 teaspoon of sugar is 4 grams. So if you're reading a label that says 1 serving of whatever's inside contains 20 grams of sugar, you can visualize that as 5 teaspoons of sugar. That's a lot. And I'd put that back on the shelf, whatever it is, whether it's added or natural sugar. We can replace butter for cooking with an unsaturated fat like avocado oil and keep cooking with butter for special occasions. We'll be looking at fats in a new coaching program I'll be launching in the next month, and we'll be covering strength, weight balance, energy, and how our DNA has wired our bodies to react in a certain way to food and exercise. It's going to be highly personalized, and it will help you to be active, not passive, when it comes to your health. And that includes fats, how our body stores fats, how it uses fats. Our DNA has something to say about that. And I believe being able to access this knowledge, being able to see inside your DNA and understand the wiring and the data will encourage and empower you to become the CEO of your health. My program will help to explain what the data means and what lifestyle changes you might consider as a result. It's designed to help you step into being the strong, powerful, and resourceful woman that you are. In the meantime, I've created a guide to help you take 4 simple steps to tackle midlife weight, which is normal and happens to millions of us. So you can start taking action today. You can find it at juleswalters.com/tackle. It's a free resource and I hope you find it useful. So that's it for this week. Before we go, I do need to make clear, if I haven't already, that I am not a doctor. I'm a health coach and my lane is lifestyle and how it affects our health. If you have a medical condition or suspect you might be developing one, then a doctor is the right person to see. So that's the legal bit done. Next week, we'll be talking about how our health is a combination of our environment, including what we eat and how much we exercise, and our DNA, what's wired in our genes. We have some really important genes that influence our metabolism. And next week, we'll be talking about how they make a difference. So see you right here next week, same time, same place.